life of Princess Deokhye, the forgotten and the last princess of Korea, was tragic and dramatic. During Russo-Japanese War of 1904–05, Japan invaded Korea and forced the emperor to sign a treaty allowing Japanese to use the countries as a military base. In 1907, the king was forced to abdicate and had been succeeded by his son. 3 years later, Japan officially annexed Korea. In 1912, Princess Deokhye was born. She was the youngest and last daughter of the 60-year-old Emperor Gojong of Korea and Yang Guiyin. However, she wasn't recognized as a princess until 1917 because she was not the daughter of a queen. But her father adored her, and she became the favorite of many members of the royal family. In 1917, Emperor Gojong persuaded Tadashi Masatake, the then ruling Governor General of Korea, to enter her name into the registry of the royal family, granting her the title of princess. She lived through comfortable years in Korea because Japan promised security and status of the royal family. She attended preschool and elementary in Seoul, being remembered as a smart and outgoing student. Her father, Gojong, suddenly died in 1919. Immediately after the death of the father, Princess Deokhye had moved to Japan as a part of the colonialist plan to Japanize the royal family. Japan forced many members of the royal family to move to Japan and became Japanese to encourage other Koreans to assimilate quickly. At the age of 13, Princess Deokhye was moved to Japan away from her mother to enroll in all-ladies middle school. Although she was allowed to go to school, she was afraid of her own safety. She feared for assassination and always carried her own water bottle to avoid being poisoned. Her classmates remember her as someone as extremely quiet. Her life in Japan was full of fear. In 1929, Princess Deokhye's mother passed away. Sadly, she was only allowed to return to Korea for the very short time for her mother's funeral in 1930, but she was not given the proper clothing to wear. Princess Deokhye was consumed with depression. Not leaving her rooms for days, she suffered from insomnia. She started to show signs of mental instability, that she was diagnosed with premature dementia. While dementia often occurs in older people, the high level of stress that she experienced may cause her to the premature dementia. Major symptoms include cognitive disintegration and delusion. Most patients would have this disease in their late teens or earlier 20s. It was likely that the death of her mother triggered the development of her dementia. In the next year, to assimilate the royal family into Japan, the Emperor of Japan arranged her to marry a Japanese aristocrat, Takeyuki. They were married in 1931, and Princess Deokhye gave birth to a daughter named Masai in the following year. Since then, Princess Deokhye has gradually been forgotten by the people. Although Takeyuki cared for Princess Deokhye, a worsening condition cost the couple a fortune in treatments. When Japan lost the Pacific War in 1945, the noble in Japan lost their status, privilege, and wealth. Count Takeyuki could not afford to continue the treatment of her dementia, and the couple divorced in the same year. 10 years after the divorce, in 1955, their only daughter ran away, leaving a letter resembling a suicide note. She was never seen again. After the divorce, Princess Deokhye was taken into the custody of her uncle and was put into a mental ward for 15 years. Although the royal family pushed to return to Korea after the independence of North and South Korea, the governments of both regimes refused to accept their return because they were deemed as traitors. Only in 1962, after the resignation by the president of South Korea, Princess Deokhye was allowed to return to home. She was admitted to the Seoul National University Hospital, but her health did not improve. Mentally, she was like a little girl, having trouble speaking, reading, and writing. In 1968, she was discharged from the hospital and was given a room in Qingdaogon Palace, which was the old residence for the royal family. Her physical health was exceptional, but she was mentally incapable without the help from her nurse. She spent 21 years in Qingdaogon Palace and died in 1989 after catching a cold at 76 years old. Princess Deokhye's life was one of the many lives destroyed by the colonization of Korea. Being a royal of a deceased kingdom truly brought tragedy to her life.